Good morning, my friends. TheFreind here, and today we'll be talking about Malfurion talents and abilities. Why? I just feel like it, and I feel like I suffered a lot learning Malfurion. He's actually a very tricky and somewhat unorthodox healer. He seems simple on the surface, but then it turns out you're kind of just putting out fires all the time, and you need the right talent build in order to do what you want to do. And he's very versatile in that regard. So, without further ado, let's go into the abilities, and then we'll sling back for your talents. Your Q ability is the most important ability for Malfurion, Regrowth. Press an ally, and you put on a buff for 20 seconds that's going to heal them for a total of 380 health. On only a 5-second cooldown and 35 mana cost, this is incredible. This is a really strong heal. Even though it's only slightly above average, and it's delineated over 20 whole seconds. This means this thing heals 19 health a second. If somebody's dying, Regrowth is not going to save them. But for overall sustain, you can keep your entire team buffed with Regrowth, and it's really strong. For Malfurion, you must realize Regrowth is the... There is a cycle, I call. The cycle of life. For Malfurion, you want to apply Regrowth to as many allied heroes as possible. You put Regrowth on one ally, then you put it on the next, and then the next, and then the next. And in an ideal game, you're going to have bouncing between 4 and 5 simultaneous regrowths at all times. This is the golden key. You want this going at all times because a regrowth with 2 seconds left on its duration heals as much as a regrowth when you just freshly put it down for 20 seconds because it does it over 20 whole seconds. If somebody's dying in that short period of time, tossing it down to regrowth when they already have it does nothing. You will find most success by putting a new buff on a new hero because of your next ability, Moonfire. Toss out a instant ability, deals a little bit of damage, reveals an area and enemy hero set, and more importantly, all allied heroes that are currently being regrown by your Q will be healed 130 health. 130 health, that is a third of regrowth. And guess what? The cooldown is 3 seconds rather than let's say 20 or something like that. So by and large, you press your Moonfire 3 times, all allied heroes will get a full regrowth heal. And not only that, this is a significant, not too significant, but this is a much larger percentage, like immediately. You're not healing 19 health a second. Instead, you're doing like, what's that, 45 health a second? And this is assuming one allied hero hitting one enemy hero. For every enemy hero you hit with Moonfire, if you do a bundle and you hit 2 or 3, this multiplies the healing. Suddenly, you now heal for 260 or 390 for every hero that's regrowing. So if all 5 allied heroes are regrowing, and you hit Moonfire on all 5 enemy heroes, you just instantly healed 3,000 health, spread across your whole team, on a 3-second cooldown. Do you understand what kind of number is that? 1,000 health a second? What the fuck? At level 1, we don't even have any talents on. And this kind of feeling gets even more extreme. By and large, you use your regrowth to spread it on all of your allied heroes, and by the time you reach your 5th hero that you're regrowing, your first hero that you apply to will expire, and you apply it back to them. You should almost never reapply a regrowth on a hero that already has it, because it's just wasted mana. They're going to be healed for basically the same amount of time. The only question is, are they going to live to see the 20-second mark, or are they going to die in the next 5 seconds? So Moonfire is your main healing component, whilst Regrowth gives you healing across your whole team. And this also establishes a very important thing that you should know for Malfurion. He is a preparation-based hero. If Malfurion just strolls up to a lane and the objective is going flaming hot, everybody's fighting over it, he's super weak because he needs time. He needs seconds in order to put his regrowth on his whole team. If he strolls up, puts a regrowth on the tank, well, guess what? He needs to wait a little bit before he can start healing the carry or the other bruiser or whatever you're doing. But if you are in a lane and you have this freedom and time and space to put regrowth on all of your heroes, Malfurion is very strong. So he's good on maps where the objective is predictable and you don't have to go all on it at once. Something sustained. Sky Temple, Volskaya Foundry, any kind of tribute map is also pretty decent. Malfurion is able to just have the time to apply his Q, and then once the fight gets going, he can really give a lot of healing with Moonfire. Moonfire is your pulse. Whilst Regrowth is just like your whole system, Moonfire gives you the pulse to keep your whole team going. This is what keeps your teammates alive and healthy. Entangling Roots. You pop down a small circle. It starts off basically a pixel, small little grassy area, and that expands rapidly. This is a tiny area of effect when you put it down raw. Landing and Tingling Roots, it has like a half second delay before it pops out of the ground, so it's really tricky to land. It deals a little bit of damage and it roots all enemy heroes hit for 1.25 seconds. Very solid ability, great ability. But notice the very extensive mana cost of 65 mana. Regrowth is kind of cheap, and then Moonfire is basically nothing, and it is your most healing ability. So Entangling Roots at 65 mana is actually really high. This is about 15% of your mana pool. Every time you toss out your roots, and if you're wondering why you're running out of mana, it's because you're spamming out roots. And you should only get in the habit of only ever plopping down the roots is if you have crowd control from another hero. Your bruiser, or more importantly, your tank, they apply a very reliable crowd control. That is the perfect time for you to put down a roots. To suddenly their half second stun gets extended by this, and now it's 1.75 second. I love comboing Malfurion with ETC, maybe May. Baron is kind of good, but I think ETC is just a superior version because roots can hit all enemy heroes. So if you're able to crowd control multiple enemy heroes reliably, Roots is just a super reliable crowd control enabler. And then, yeah, that's all I can say about it. It's also good in tight choke points and cornering off gates. See how you go with it. Innervate is trait. You can give an allied hero 20% of their mana back. Click and shoot. You point and click, boom, 20% of the mana over 5 seconds. Furthermore, their basic abilities will recharge 50% faster. So essentially, all of their abilities gets half a second knocked off every second, or a total of 2.5 seconds off of all of their abilities. Unbelievably good. This is unique. No other hero has the capability of restoring so much mana as Malfurion does. It basically becomes a walking fountain, and it's really good. Do not think twice about it. Innervate. Literally use it off cooldown on every hero. There are some heroes who are more mana hungry than others, and they take priority. Mages are your most important. Without mana, they can't do anything. And furthermore, they also really benefit from the cooldown reduction because that translates to more damage, to more crowd control, and because Malfurion has a relatively reliable crowd control route that immobilizes them, they can really punish that. So mages take priority. Your ranged assassins, like Rainer or Vala, especially Vala, they don't need as much mana, but they do want to have at least maybe 30% or 50% to be useful. And my personal favorite is I like using Innervate on tanks a lot. They run out of mana very quickly because their abilities don't do a lot of damage. They need to use it a lot to take somebody down. So if you're able to keep their mana topped off, that helps a lot. And they're able to just crowd control somebody freely without any regard and just really keep up pressure. In this game, crowd control is king, mobility is queen, and range is prince. That is the trifecta, and it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors situation where they each counter each other. By amplifying the strongest effect in the game, crowd control, with more frequent crowd control, more mana to be able to afford it, it really makes a difference. So if you have no better target, please put it on your tank. And also, think twice before you innervate somebody that's planning on going back home. If they use the fountain, then they're signaling clear intention that they're planning to stay around for a little bit. That's the time you use innervate. Use it off cooldown. And if you know a fight is coming, you know it's coming, hold off on it until the fight gets committed. Then put the innervate on your tank or your mage, and it really helps them because suddenly that cooldown reduction helps out a lot. Otherwise, I really enjoy it for its mana-sustaining properties to make sure the whole team's topped off. That's all I can say about it. Heroics, Tranquility. Simple ability. Press R, boom. Now you're healing everybody around you for 80 health a second. Mind you, I told you, Regrowth is 19 health a second. This is 4 times the strength in a fraction of the time. And furthermore, any allies that are regrowing, and are also being healed by Tranquility will get an extra 10 armor. So this is super useful in keeping your whole entire team topped off. If the enemy team has like moderate/slow damaging potential, Tranquility just blows them out of the water. And Malfurion just completely trumps their damage output. Your whole team is being healed 100 health a second. You better believe that the enemy team is able to match that output. And furthermore, the armor just helps a lot. If I feel like an allied hero is going to get focus fired upon, I will drop Tranquility without hesitation to give them that armor. And suddenly, If they, let's say they have 2,000 health and they're about to be bursted down for 1,500 damage, you just saved 150 health, and you're starting the healing as soon as possible. Armor and healing is a super potent combo because your enemy's dealing less damage, but your healing property is at full strength. So suddenly their damage tapers off hard and your healing just skyrockets, and they can't overwhelm that affliction. Take a look at Garros. When he's low health and he's being killed by a healer, he's invincible. And just having the armor effect on Tranquility for free is awesome. This is really nice. But it's not my... I don't always pick up Tranquility. In fact, in higher ranked games, I tend to go Twilight Dream instead. After a half-second delay, you'll deal a massive amount of damage, as well as silencing every enemy hero around you for 3 seconds. You see, Malfurion has... he does best in one situation. Preparation. When he has time to put regrowths on his whole team, and he has space to put down Moonfires on whatever he finds, and then he tranquils because nobody's threatening him, and he's able to just go in the middle of his team and give them all healing. This is an ideal world, but guess what? If you get dove upon, let's say a strong diver, Diablo, a Nubarak, maybe Murden can definitely fulfill that role. These heroes, you don't have time to heal them up. They're gonna die. So Twilight Dream acts as a pressure valve. When the enemy team dives hard, you have an opportunity to stop the pain, stop the damage right in its track. Instead of you healing, you prevent them from doing any damage, more or less, for 3 seconds. And this is super important. It's also a vital component in interrupting game plans. Divers, especially melee assassins, they dive deep. They assume, hey, I'm going to use my vastly superior mobility in the form of my spells to get around, avoid damage. Well, if you silence them, they're as good as dead. It's great. It has lots of playmaking potential, but please do not run into the enemy team, all willy-nilly. Be super judicial about it when they have crowd control available. Because when you see a Malfurion walking at you, and they have Twilight Dream as their selected level 10, you know what he's going to do. He's going to press R. So they're going to stop you on the spot, and you're going to die right afterwards. It's going to feel very awkward. So this is a great defensive tool to completely stop a dive in its tracks. Where I feel like Tranquility will not have enough time to provide its healing, Twilight Dream is the more extreme, snappy version to make sure nothing bad happens. So that's kind of like how his abilities work. Very strong kit. Let's take a look at his talents, and he has some of the best talents in the game. Deep Roots. Entangling roots will grow larger, and they'll persist on the ground for 4% longer. Furthermore, every enemy hero you hit will grant you 14 permanent mana. This is a infinitely stackable crest. Trash tier talents. I'm very afraid. It's a very solid one. It just does what you want to do better, but it doesn't increase your crowd control number. You use roots for solely one purpose, and that is to follow up a reliable crowd control to ensure that you get the 1.25 seconds root off. If you're not doing that, it doesn't do much. And the 3 seconds that it lays on the ground is pretty nice. It's not a very long time, so a lot of heroes just, wait it out. Well, guess what? Deep Roots just completely cuts off an entire hallway, and it stays on the ground for a longer period of time. But guess what? The enemy team will just walk into the root, and then they'll just keep on going instead of waiting the 5 seconds that's on the ground. So Deep Roots just doesn't do you any good. And although the permanent mana solves your mana problems completely, it's really unnecessary. You run out of mana because you spam your roots too much. That is it. If you constantly use your Q and you constantly use your W, you're only going to use like a moderate amount of mana, and then that's something you just very easily tap off with a fountain. So Deep Roots doesn't really do the job that I want to do for Malfurion. Zoning is, although something I can do, it's not what I want to do as Malfurion. Ventral Roots, though, is a much better option. When you drop down a root, you'll also spawn a summon, Treant, that will deal a substantial amount of damage, and it'll last 10 whole seconds. This is really nice when clearing out camps, and more importantly, when you're following a tank or your team has a lot of crowd control, adding additional damage is really nice. Because the enemy team is crowd controlled for whatever reason, they don't often have the time or the space to deal with the treant or kill it. So it's just there, whamming away, just slapping them. The broccoli does a lot of damage, believe it or not. So if you keep somebody locked down for 4 seconds, why not add a treant to substantially increase your damage output alongside it? And furthermore, every time you hit an enemy hero with a roots, you have an infinitely stackable quest to increase the treant's damage. So this keeps it relevant throughout the game. Ventral Roots is pretty nice, but this is not my default pick. Instead, my default pick is Emerald Dreams. When the root expires, enemy heroes are put to sleep for 2 seconds. Holy moly. What? A level 1 talent? Suddenly, you can immobilize an entire enemy team for 3.25 seconds on a basic ability at level 1. I don't know what to tell you. That is insane. And even if, when you're with an uncoordinated team or a really trigger happy team where they tend to wake up your sleeping enemies, which is really annoying, but it happens, you just gotta accept it. This is still at bare minimum a 0.5-second stun added to your roots, because Blizzard has been gracious enough to make it so that if you try to wake up somebody that's been recently slept, you don't. And instead, any damage you deal to them is still gonna maintain the sleep. They have this 0.5-second grace period, where after that, well, now any damage will wake them up. But you have a very short period of time where you can deal with whatever you want to do, it's still gonna keep them sleeping. So even in its worst case scenario, you are adding a 0.5-second stun to your roots. I would have been so happy to pick that up as is, but now you got an extra sleep for 2 seconds. As Malfurion, you want to default to Emerald Dreams. This is such a powerful upgrade to your roots in making it, because Malfurion doesn't really have any crowd control. Sure, he has the silence, but this is unreliable, and sometimes you just die trying to apply it. And root is significantly safer. So Malfurion has no way to stop channeling abilities. If Anduin is dropping his bubble, you can't do anything to stop it. But Emerald Dreams can, because it's a stun. It'll prevent them from using their abilities and will drop them out of their channeling abilities. And if your team is gracious enough or smart enough to let the enemy sleep for 2 seconds, they can reposition, they can drop their combo, and this is what really makes Malfurion good with mages, because they need a second or two to drop their full weights. The sleep is perfect for that regard. Emerald Dreams is just an S tier talent. This is such a disgusting talent. So good. Always pick Emerald Dreams. Sometimes Vengeful Roots if your team has a lot of ground control, and in games where I want to pick Deep Roots, like maybe it's your Dragonshire where you could just drop it on the shrine, either the enemy team isn't scared away from it, or it doesn't do anything. Guess what? They just step on it, and then they don't care. The sleep, though, makes your root vastly more terrifying. Enemy teams will respect the grass when they see that they get slept for 2 seconds afterwards. Being immobilized for 3 seconds instead of just waiting out 3 seconds, big mistake. Level 4. Casting Regrowth on the ally also grants Malfurion its effect for 50% normal duration. This is a perfect mimic. Cue another ally here, you get a regrowth for 10 seconds. And guess what? Your regrowth heals as much as it does, at full duration or at minimum duration because of how it works. It's over 20 seconds. So constantly reapplying your regrowth and adding it to another hero, that's awesome. You basically have a second free regrowth on you because you're constantly spamming out your Q to continue the cycle of life. You're constantly being healed by regrowth. It's as if you have it at full duration. So you can just spam it nonstop. Furthermore, this eliminates you as a potential pick for your cycle of life. Now you only need to worry about 4 heroes. Press Q, you wait 5 seconds. Now your Q is on the second. Wait 5, third, wait 5, fourth. And you add it to yourself for free. You just got your regrowth on your whole ally team over a course of 15 seconds. You're going to have a 5th regrowth ready to go on whoever it is you want to. And you can restart the cycle early, which is pretty cool. Rejuvenation also keeps you topped off because you're no longer focusing yourself, and because your team typically needs the healing more than you do. Your tank is always in the fight, your ranged assassin might do something crazy, your bruiser is up there willy-nilly. They need your Q. So yeah, Rejuvenation is just great. Celestial Alignment. Increase the reveal duration by 3 seconds, and you deal 85% more damage with your basic attacks against these heroes. This is a mess. Holy moly, this is a great talent, but I don't like it because it doesn't scale very well. In the early game, though, Malfurion becomes a right-clicking monstrosity. He becomes an early powerhouse with Celestial Alignment. You can really bully out a lot of heroes just by hitting them. And you'd be shocked at just how much extra damage it does. However, it doesn't do anything extra. Malfurion, you want to be using your auto attacks as much as possible. It's a very important aspect to this game. And healers also have some hard-hitting basic abilities. Hard-hitting basic attacks, I'm sorry. And Celestial Alignment really leans into that, but there'll come a time after level 10 where suddenly every enemy hero has their heroics. Now they're significantly more dangerous. They can dive upon you, they can lock you down, they can kill you. It becomes much more dangerous to apply your auto attacks at that rate. So it kind of becomes a trap talent in some ways. Great early game option, but I'm not really too keen on it, if you ask me. Shan'do's Clarity. You gain a second charge of Innervate, so now you can fill up the mana of 2 heroes, which is awesome. Charge-based mechanics in this game is super powerful because not only do you have a second charge, as an emergency, you can use both of them whenever you want, but it effectively reduces the cooldown on the ability by itself. Think about it. You're in the fights, you use your traits, and now you have a second one ready to go. You may not need the second charge right away, but in the meantime, though, whilst you have it ready to go, your second charge is refreshing. It's coming off of cooldown. You may go through the whole 25-second period without needing the second innervate. And guess what? Now you got the second charge came back. So in a way, by giving you the freedom to activate it and having an extra one in storage, it's able to recharge its cooldown and you're still able to use it. It's insane. So a second charge and effectively you reduce the cooldown. And not only that, it actually does reduce its cooldown. Every allied hero that you are affecting with rejuvenation reduces the makes the innervates recharge 25% faster. So when your whole team is Q buffed, your innervate now has effectively a 10-second cooldown. And you get 2 charges, babe. Let's go. 2 charges every 20 seconds instead of 25 for 1. That's great. I don't pick up Shan'do's Clarity too often. I like this in certain games, but rejuvenation is my default, and I'm going to explain why later. Level 7 has some great options. Wild Growth. Every time you hit an enemy hero, all of your regrowths will extend their duration by 1 second. And if you hit multiple enemy heroes, you increase you'll multiply this effect. So if you hit 4 enemy heroes, all of your regrowths will now increase their duration by 4 seconds. This lets you cycle of life super easy. Now you're no longer constrained to the 5-second cooldown, and you constantly are, just scrambling to make sure that your first hero gets it. Once you get your Q up and running, all of your allied heroes are just constantly getting refreshed. Because your W has a 3-second cooldown, if you hit 2 enemy heroes or 3 enemy heroes, you effectively just stopped regrowth's duration. It no longer ticks down. You can keep it on permanently, which is awesome. Also, the regrowth you apply to yourself for free, that one is gaining its duration increased by 1 second too. So you can keep yourself rejuvenated permanently, even if it's just one allied hero. So Wild Growth really, really bolsters your healing output for free. Because the less often you need to press Q, the more mana you save, the less mana you spend, and you have it ready to go off cooldown. Just in case somebody, loses the buff, you can reapply it to them. So Wild Growth just makes this whole game plan significantly smoother. A very good talent. I like to pick this up as default. Tenacious Roots. Increase the root duration of Tangling Roots by 25%. That means you get an extra 0.33 seconds of root duration. Furthermore, whenever Malfurion gets stunned, the cooldown of the roots is instantly reset, and this can only occur every 10 seconds. This is a terrible talent. This is so hard to use. Oh my god. The thing is, as Malfurion, if you are close enough to get stunned, you're close enough to die, and it's hard to use Tenacious Root in such a scenario. Not only that, the condition is that you successfully use roots before you get stunned. Like you are expecting the stun to come out, you drop your root, stun me please, God forbid. I'm going to get in your way so I can get stunned and I can have another root. And praying to the gods you don't die to such a thing. Hell yeah. It works out. You know what's funny is the Emerald Dreams. I talked about that 0.5 second uninterruptible grace period that the enemy hero is not woken up when you deal damage to them from the sleep. That is a longer duration increase than Tenacious Roots for something that's entirely dedicated to it. The thing is, if Malfurion gets stunned, the odds of you dying is so high because you should never be anywhere near the front line. Malfurion has a graceful property in that he doesn't need to be with the team. He doesn't need to be right next to the enemy team either in order to apply all this healing. He just needs to be somewhere in orbit around the enemy tank, and his whole entire team gets healed. That's the strong part about Malfurion. This combat-oriented nature of Tenacious Roots is terrible because there's a next talent here, Nature's Cure. You get an extra activatable ability on your hotbar. All allied heroes who are being regrown, you can activate it instantly to remove their stuns, roots, and slows. It's not a cleanse, and that it applies unstoppable. So if they get stunned the next millisecond, well, tough luck, kid. You missed out on that. But you can purge the stun. If a stun is so important that you want to reset your Tangling Roots, well, guess what? Why not remove the stun on your entire friendly team? Furthermore, it removes roots, it removes strong slowing effects, whatever you need to. So On one hand, if Malfurion is getting stunned, he gets value. But if Malfurion is stunned, he cannot activate Nature's Cure. So he wants to be out of the fight so that he can purge and cleanse his team. Nature's Cure can change a game on its whim because cleanse effects are super powerful. If you're a beginner, Malfurion, this is kind of difficult to keep track of, so use it on very predictable and easy stuns. Think about your Blaze stuns are very common, by the way. They tend to hit multiple heroes, and you also, Blaze stuns are very dangerous. So Nature's Cure just puts a stop to that. And there's lots of heroics that also do these big, long duration kinds of stunts and roots, and this is where you just shut it down completely. Nature's Cure is very important in games where it gets lots of value. You always pick this up. Otherwise, Wild Growth to make it easier to cycle your cycle of life. Remember, all you need is Rejuvenation to guarantee the cycle of life will always be active for all 5 heroes. Otherwise, it becomes 4 heroes. Well, it's technically 5 heroes are being healed, but you're only counting 4, and this is important for a talent later down the road. So yeah, level 7's done. Level 10, I've described much about these already. Tranquility in games where there's a moderate amount of damage, you don't really feel super threatened. Like, it doesn't feel like there's lots of burst. Well, Tranquility will provide full value to your whole team. But if there is a lot of burst, there is a lot of dive, there is a lot of importance in denying the enemy team, Twilight Dream comes in handy, especially in a defensive role. If you need to roll up to the team to apply the silence, it's not as good because you have a high chance of dying in the attempt. But when the enemy team has to come to you and you can peel and save your friendly hero by walking to the side, applying the silence, boom, it really shuts it down. Let's waste no time. Let's get 13. Nature's Swiftness. For each allied hero that's currently affected by regrowth, you get 5% speed. 6% speed, I should say. If all 5 heroes are regrown, you get mount speed everywhere you go. In the middle of a fight, you have mount speed. This is incredible. It gives you so much mobility, and it just corrects your positioning. It gives you so much safety. You are never threatened by an assassin. You can kite around the tank permanently. It becomes much easier to use your heroics because you're faster, you can get into position to tranquil. You can constantly follow up your team, and you can get out just in case the enemy team is trying to focus you. If you have lots of speed, it becomes very easy to get into position to use Twilight Dream as well. So Nature's Swiftness just gives you lots of safety, flexibility in using your heroics. It just makes you so much smoother. And it keeps your death count low, which is what you want. Entering Moonfire. This is the inverse. Instead of you increasing your own speed, you slow down any enemy arrow you hit with your W. This is pretty nice on a team with no crowd control. Suddenly applying it slow is really nice. You're not speeding up yourself, but you're slowing down the enemy team, which makes it just as good when you're chasing down an enemy hero. But more importantly, your whole friendly team is able to capitulate on a guy that is slowed. Your mages will have an easier time landing their abilities. And it's also easier for you to land your own route because the enemy hero is slowed. So somebody that is slowed, crippled, easy to land the route. Entering Moonfire is pretty decent in that regard. I don't think it's a very good talent because I prefer the speed for myself, and my team tends to have slowing effects that are stronger than 25%, so it doesn't stack. But if it's few and far in between, I might seriously consider Moonfire. This is a good talent, but it's typically overshadowed. Revitalize. There is one very important caveat to Malfurion's trait, and that's you cannot cast it on yourself. You can only cast it on an allied hero. Well, when you cast it on an allied hero, now you will also benefit from Innervate. You will restore 50% of your max mana, and you'll also get the 50% bonus cooldown reduction. I've spoken to you how important it is for Malfurion to have his numbers in position. The cycle of life lasts 20 seconds on a 5-second cooldown. At best, you can have 4 allied heroes constantly regrown, and then as soon as one expires, for you to do the 5th one, it expires, it becomes down to 4. By cheating the cooldown reduction with your level 13 talent, Revitalize, you reduce the regrowth cooldown. Instead of it being 5 seconds, it's like, I don't know, it's much faster than that. You can create another instance of the cycle of life where all 5 allied heroes are being regrown. And this is important because Moonfire is affecting all allied heroes who are being regrown. Yeah, you just get more healing off of Moonfire because the whole team is being affected by it. You're getting more wild growths because you're applying your W more frequently. You're able to heal your team more often. Moonfire is the pulse, the heartbeat of Malfurion. This is your main healing output. It is not your Q, it is your W. Your Q is just a conduit to apply your W. Reducing the cooldown on this as well just means more healing. Reducing the cooldown on your roots just more frequently. And because if you combo this with Shan'do's Clarity, by using your Q more often, you're able to sling into that faster cooldown reduction with your Q, and you're able to get a second charge that you can keep revitalized up for 10 seconds instead of 5. You never run out of mana. Your team never runs out of mana. You're able to apply so much more healing. Revitalize is the big guns of Malfurion. If it's a stat-heavy game where the enemy team does lots of damage and they have lots of health, your team has lots of damage and lots of health, you need more power. Revitalize is that. It doesn't give you the utility or the speed of Nature's Swiftness, but you might not need that at all. You just need more healing, more damage, more crowd control, and more mana especially. Revitalize just lets you do that. Yeah, the big guns Malfurion. You become a little bit vulnerable because you're not applying Q to yourself and you're not getting the speed. So Malfurion tends to be lower health and he tends to be picked off more often, but this is when it really turns around. 13 is a great talent here. 16. Two good options, really. Ysera's Gift. While Malfurion is above 75% health, his regrowth healing over time is increased by 75%. Their Q is 75% stronger. That's good. This is 380 health. You just increased it up to 600 health for a low price of 35 mana. That's awesome. But you must be over 75% health. This is why I really like Rejuvenation, because you constantly are applying your regrowth to yourself, so you're constantly getting the 19 health a second, and you're constantly moonfiring yourself, so you also get the pulse. It's very easy to stay above the 75% health threshold for you to activate your Ysera's Gift. This is amazing in poison-heavy games, where the enemy team is all about sustained, slow damage. Ysera's Gift just blows it out of the water, completely. Easy, easy. This is unconditional. You just need to apply your Q onto as many heroes as possible, and boom. It's very easy to just maximize your value off of it. 80 health per second is so challenging to overcome. It's insane. If Nature's Balance is trash, regrowth duration by 5 seconds means, hey, now your cycle of life is guaranteed, but you don't need it. Your level 4 talent does it, perfectly well, and 16 is way too important of a talent here for you to increase your healing numbers. Increasing the Moonfire's area is nice by 25%. Whatever, dude. If the best time to land a multi-man Moonfire is when your allied hero is dying, and the enemy team is tunnel visioned to make sure they can take them down. That's when they tend to clump up. That's a good opportunity to use Moonfire on multiple enemy heroes. Or when your team crowd controls multiple enemy heroes and you're able to, land it in the middle, you got free reign in that regard. But really, this is a trash talent. What does this increase? You're not increasing your health because you're constantly reapplying your Q. And your healing comes from your W. The area is seldom used because it tends to be either on the lonesome tank, or just some enemy hero just so happens to stumble upon and you press W on them. It's just a trash, and I feel worse off. I feel like I do nothing with this talent. Let's talk about Moonlit Harmony and why this is the best talent in the game. Increases your Moonfire heal by 20% baseline, and by 50% for every ally affected by regrowth. Do the math. 5 heroes that are regrown, you get a 95% increase to your W healing. Remember how I said at level 1, you heal for 3,000 health? Should you have Moonlit Harmony, that becomes 6,000 every 3 seconds. 6,000 health every 3 seconds. And by the way, at level 16, it's no longer, 3,000 6,000. It's scaled up. I think, what was it? By 64%, so your W is effectively healing for about 250 health. Think about it. 250 times 5, 1,250. You hit 5 enemy heroes, that's 6,250. You double that with Moonlit Harmony again, you just increase your healing number by 12,000 in a single key press. This is insane. Moonlit Harmony is what gives Malfurion strong healing power. Ysera's Gift is great, don't get me wrong, but when an ally hero is dying, Malfurion's big weakness is burst damage, or, suddenly they take a little bit too much pressure and they just fall over. By increasing your Moonfire's healing substantially, like suddenly this is healing for 500 health every single time you press W, throughout your whole team, by the way, you're able to keep somebody, in the fight significantly longer, because that instant healing is much more important than the 20-second duration heal. This keeps your team alive so easily. Moonlit Harmony is incredible, and once you play it, you really can't go back. Furthermore, you want this to synergize with Rejuvenation, with Revitalize, because this, instead of your cycle of life, although you're healing 5 heroes simultaneously, your cooldown of 20 seconds for a 5-second duration of 4 heroes, that's 20 seconds. You can only permit 4 heroes to be healed simultaneously, even though you're healing 5, technically. Regrowth and Rejuvenation gives you the extra 5th body, so this gives you an extra 15% allied extra healing from your Moonlit Harmony. Furthermore, it synergizes with Shan'do. Oh wait, no, you can't. But Revitalize and Shan'do's Clarity plus Moonfire and Moonlit Harmony, you cheat out the 5th Regrowth. Boom, you're getting maximum value out of it. And if you get that cooldown reduction of your W, which is so important, oh my god, it's so much healing. Level 20, lots of good options here. Serenity. Each enemy hit by Moonfire reduces the cooldown Tranquility by 3 seconds, so it effectively makes it a 50-second cooldown. Pretty nice cooldown reduction. Furthermore, the healing is increased by 25% and up to 75%, so if you have your whole ally team regrown, that is a big number. You get Tranquility, Serenity, you get Ysera's Gift, you're healing your team for 300 health a second with 10 armor. That is unbeatable. Unbeatable in poison-based comps. Serenity is a great option. It's a very flexible option. I really like it in most regards. If you just need more sustained, powerful, short periods of time healing, Serenity is just great for these big team fights. Not much more to comment on that. It's just a solid upgrade. Astral Communion is super interesting though. You get a new ability on your hotbar. You activate to channel for 1 second instead of half a second, and then you'll teleport to an area to cast Twilight Dream there. The cooldown is shared, so you can't do either or, so it's basically a range increaser for your Twilight Dream. Furthermore, your silence is increased to 5 seconds rather than 3 seconds. On its own, if you got a very troublesome melee assassin or you're constantly hitting multiple enemy heroes, the silence duration increase is huge. That's really nice. But if you see lots of opportunities where the enemy team is kind of like diving a little bit deep and you're not really being focused upon, Astral Communion can do a huge game-ending silence. Your team has abilities, they do not, and you can just completely overwhelm them. It's a risky ability, though. Sometimes you can do absolutely nothing with it. But if you're getting good Twilight Dream value off the game, Astral Communion makes it easier for you to be on the offensive with your teams, with your tanks dive. You can assist them with that and help out with it. It's pretty good. Very situational, though. It's not a guarantee pick. Life Bloom, complete trash. Again, Malfurion does his best when he's continuing the cycle of life to make sure your whole ally team is being buffed by Q so that your Moonfire is hitting as many heroes as possible. If you break this chain and reapply Regrowth to somebody that is not being regrown currently, you just waste the healing. You waste the remaining healing, and you're not making it any faster than it is. Plus, you're guaranteed to break off the cycle. Suddenly, somebody's going to run out of regrowth duration. That is a small time frame where not being affected by your Q. So, Light Bloom incentivizes a bad playstyle. It is not a good playstyle. Furthermore, if your teammate is dying, let's say they're at half health. Let's say they're a bruiser at maybe 5,000 health, which is kind of, or maybe 4,000. That's probably more accurate. This at best restores 200 health right away. That's nothing for Malfurion. That is literally 1 W worth of casting. And by wasting your Q's duration, and instead of applying it to another hero who desperately needs the healing, and you just did it on somebody that's already taken a lot of pressure and dying, you just waste out on your Q. And it's not strong enough heal either way. The strongest effect, hey, my allied heroes have 1 health. Hey, he gets 399 health. Awesome, let's go. They're dead. Dude, the healing means nothing at that point. They're dead. So if you heal somebody close to full health, you're getting no value off of Light Bloom. If you're healing somebody close to death, again, no value because they're going to die. And Regrowth gives you no flat healing. Your flat healing comes from RW. Your Qs are the slower one. So it's just bad, dude. It's so bad. Lunar Shower, though, this is awesome. If I go Moonlit Harmony build, Lunar Shower is super strong because when you hit an enemy hero, you reduce the cooldown by 1 second. It does not stack, unfortunately, so it is just a raw 1 second reduction. Suddenly, your 3 second cooldown that heals your entire team by 12,000 has accelerated to a 2 second cooldown. Now, instead of it being a 4,000 healing per second, it's 6,000 healing per second. What the fuck? Oh my god, it's so good. Lunar Shower is good for its healing properties with Moonlit Harmony by reducing the cooldown. And because it's 1 second sooner, you can deploy that healing 1 second sooner, every 2 seconds. So somebody taking a lot of pressure will really appreciate the faster healing. And of course, reducing the cooldown just means you get more total healing across the board. But now, in a span of 20 seconds, you can cast 10 Moonfires. 10 Moonfires. That will outpace any Regrowth healing out of the water completely. It's crazy. Of course, and also you get a ramping damage boost to your Lunar Shower. I don't care about it. It helps a little bit, you know, it gives you a pretty good damage output, but you're doing this for the cooldown reduction and your Moonlit Harmony to really blow your healing out of the water. So let's talk about talent choices. This is my typical go-to build: Emerald Dreams, Rejuvenation. I tend to pick up either Nature's Cure or Wild Growth. I do like Wild Growth a lot if I don't need to. Your Heroic is flexible. You have either or choice, doesn't matter. I like to go Nature's Swiftness. I go Moonlit Harmony, and then pick up Lunar Shower. The goal of this build is, yeah, you get more utility off your E at level 1, doesn't matter. Rejuvenation keeps all 5 heroes with a regrowth. So suddenly your Moonlit Harmony gets maximum value. And because you are being applied a regrowth buff, even if it's a half the ratio, it doesn't matter. You're still getting full Moonlit Harmony heals. Lunar Shower just bolsters your healing significantly, and thanks to the safety of Nature's Witness, you can get in and out of range for your W. You can get in and out of range of enemy heroes. You can get in and out of range for your heroics. It's very flexible tier. I might flex into Moonfire. And Moonfire, hindering Moonfire also synergizes with Lunar Shower, by the way. 3 seconds slow, 2 second cooldown. You can keep somebody permanently slowed, and it makes your subsequent W easier to land because the enemy hero is slowed. So not a bad combo. But I tend to go Nature's Swiftness because it helps me more than it helps the team. But sometimes it's the reverse, so feel free. My Q build is, again, Emerald Dreams. No reason to stray from it. Rejuvenation. Tends to be Wild Growth, but Nature's Cure is a very good option. But Wild Growth. Tranquility is very essential with the Q build, because you need to heal yourself to ensure you stay above the Ysera's Gift 75% healing. You need to, you tend to go with Nature's Weapons as well, because you get lots of Q build. And then lastly, Serenity gives you maximum healing. For a minimal amount of healing cost, with a minimal amount of contact with the enemy team, you can keep your entire team healed in and out of combat at a massive rate. And it's super strong in team fights and slow poison because they simply cannot outpace it. Lastly, my third build can be a more offensive build. Celestial Alignment, Mental Roots, maybe you get the Nation's Roots and Twilight Dream, but this is kind of memey. I prefer the big guns build. You pick up Shan'do's Clarity and Revitalize at 13. Level 7 is whatever. I tend to pick up Wild Growth, Tranquility, or Twilight Dream, your choice. I tend to go Moonlit Harmony, and then Lunar Shower. There's no point in increasing your cooldown reduction for your Q. So casting your Ysera's Gift more often doesn't give you any healing. Again, casting Regrowth on somebody that already has the buff does not increase their healing. You just refresh the total duration, that's it. But by reducing the cooldown, you make your W come out sooner, more often, it heals more. So Moonlit Harmony is really the way to go. And then lastly, Lunar Shower with cooldown reduction from Revitalize is just comical. You literally have it every second and a half. The healing output, the mana regeneration, the rooting potential out, this is outstanding. This is definitely the strongest build in hard fights. Like, I'm talking big sticks, big swings, and you're not being threatened the slightest. I like to build number 1 better because it gives me more flexibility. I'm keeping myself healed. I'm keeping myself fast so I don't get targeted down by the enemy assassin. 2 for slow poison builds. 3 is if you're not threatened and your team just needs more healing and more output, this is the big guns build. Yeah, that's all for Malfurion. Try out my builds and be sure to spam out your Moonfires on as many enemy heroes as possible. Be sure to not recast your Qs and follow the cycle of life. Thank you, that's all.